Hey everyone, this is Nicole Pendergrass with Noirvest Holdings. If you want to learn how to use your small axe to build an empire, you should be listening to a Small Axe podcast with my good friend Nico.
Hey, guys, this is your boy Nico, your host of the Small Axe Podcast. Hey, this show is dedicated to helping you become the best multifamily real estate investor that you can be. Now, whether you want to be an active or a passive investor, this show will give you all the resources you need to help sharpen your axe and build your own personal empire. So you know what? Sit back and relax and enjoy this show. And hey, if you find value in it, I would love for you to subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. I love you guys. Hey, Small Axe community, it's your boy Nico here. I'm hanging out with Nicole, Miss Nikki, I call her, Nicole Pendergrass. We've been friends for like 3 years now, and I want to introduce her to you if you don't already know her. She is a wonderful person, wonderful investor, and she's got a great story to tell. So, Nicole, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nico. I'm so excited to be on your show. I'm like, yes, I got the invitation. I can't believe it's been 3 years already. That's
Well, probably.
crazy.
I know. I
Yeah,
know.
at least, right?
It's had to have been 3 years. And I think we joined Jake and Gino around the same time, and then MIH as well. And
Yeah.
so cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm very glad to have met you and have this opportunity. You are a wonderful person, very giving. You have so much insight and a very hard worker. You're so inspirational to me. So thank you very much for that.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Thank you and I feel the same about you. And yeah, so that's why I invited you on here. I want people to know a little bit more about you and your story and be inspired by you. So perhaps you can kind of take a few minutes to, tell us a little story about how you got to where you are today.
okay. So I started real estate a while ago, at least the education portion in 2010 when I went to my first 3-day seminar. And I was searching for that other thing because that's the point when I realized that the career path I had chosen, I spent 4 years in undergrad pursuing because I wasn't a quitter and I wasn't going to drop out like everyone else who was in that major dropped out. And because I stick with it, right? I don't quit. So I graduated pre-med, started working at a hospital, and decided that's not really, I don't think I want to do that. Or I need to make sure 1,000% that that's what I do before I spend another 10 years down that path, right? So I was looking for all these other options, the things that I was interested, because you always hear about follow your passion, do what you enjoy, all of that. And I was still searching when I went to this 3-day real estate seminar. And that was the first time I realized regular people could buy real estate or get involved in real estate and really change the trajectory of their future financially and for their families and all of that. And so I said, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. Like, this is for me. And I was sold, but I had no money. I had no credit because I ruined it in college. I had no connections. I didn't know anybody doing real estate. My family wasn't, doing real estate and come from money. So I started with the newbie traditions of trying to wholesale and doing things with no money, no credit, blah, blah, blah. Years later, after a bunch of non-starters, well, I won't say non-starters because we definitely started, but we didn't get to the end goal. I ended up venturing off by myself and buying a 3-unit house hack. So now I said I didn't have any money and I didn't have any credit. So this was years later. I had been working on my credit. I've been paying off a lot of things on my credit report. I had a small amount of savings in my 403B that I was able to take a loan from to use that. And my mom let me borrow a little bit. One of my friends had like 4 or 5 thousand. She let me borrow. Good thing I was able to, she trusted me with that. And I paid her back like a couple months later. So I kind of piecemealed together a down payment for a 3-family to house hack. And that happened in 2015. And then after that, I just started, life happened and I wasn't able to scale like I thought I was going to immediately. You hear all these stories of people just jumping in and just like, oh, and in a year I had 5 closings, or after that the first deal, you get that first deal and you keep going. I guess that depends on a certain size deal, because that did not happen for me. And even after I got into commercial, that still didn't happen for me. So I think it really just depends, and don't take everything that people say out there as your word for or truth, gospel truth for what is going to happen in your situation. You can't be discouraged by that. You just have to take that and keep going and have the strength to keep moving on, have your why be strong enough because it can get very discouraging when you're seeing everyone else moving at a certain momentum and you think you should be matching that speed, but that's not your journey. And I had to learn to accept that. So in that time frame, after closing the 3 unit, I got married. I started having kids. I had, to deal with non-paying tenants and have an eviction. Like I just was learning how to be a landlord and how to have tenant relations, deal with contractors, and all the ups and downs that go with all of that. So when I finally thought I could get my head above water and I could breathe a little bit, I said, you know what, it's time for me to start scaling and to look to get, more buildings because I'm not meant to stop at this 3 unit. This is not the plan. Like I'm supposed to be building and doing more. And that's when 2019, I refinanced, got some equity out of the house and joined Jake and Gino, got mentorship. I also joined another mastermind, MIH. And from there, the ball's just been rolling and it's kind of exploded. Like, at least with my networking and like before I said I had no connections, now I have a ton of connections. Like I basically can reach out and find out whatever information or resource or person that I need with the network that I've built now. And it's really just from me. I think joining mentorship was key to that. And then from there, I was able to expand the network and make sure that I can make it happen.
Awesome. Love the story and the journey. I'm going to ask some questions about it and pick it apart a little bit. In 2015, you got the triplex. Where is it and where are you located and that kind of stuff?
It is in the Bronx, and I'm still in the Bronx. I moved into a different rental because we needed more space with the second kid. And yeah, so I'm in New York City. And yes, no, I do not invest here other than that 3 unit
Does,
because the price point and the regulations and I mean, I get opportunities that come across, and I'm always debating, should I do something in the city, something else, which I know you can find some good opportunities, but yeah, not really, not in this day and age, not after the run up we had the last couple of years too.
True. And like, how much did you pay for that triplex originally?
505 was the purchase price.
That sounds like a great price here up here in New York. Jeez.
Yeah, especially now. And when I first got pre-approved, I was pre-approved for 250. So I wasn't looking at anything in that price range. And when I ended up doing a mailer and I got feedback from, I got response from the owner of the triplex. And when he told me the purchase price, I said, no, there's no way. Like I'm not gonna get that. But he hooked me up with his broker and said, no worry, they're gonna get you approved. And it almost fell through a couple of times, but it pushed through.
That's incredible. And does it pay for itself? And you were living there for a little while, I'm assuming, because you said afterwards you met your husband or then got a different house. So
Mhm.
talk to us a little bit about that. And does it pay for itself? Is there any income left over?
Okay. So at first, yes, with the numbers, I was living for free just from the rent on the other 2 units. Then I had an eviction and the tenant wasn't paying for like a year. So I ended up having to pay. But on paper, if everyone's paying on time, how they should be, yes, I was basically living for free, maybe have like $400 a month if I wanted to have some reserves or something like that. Once I recently was going to sell the property and then it ended up falling through and I ended up deciding to keep it. And I got hooked up with voucher tenants for City FEPs, which is like Section 8, but just city run instead of federally run. And now the cash flow from that building is is almost at my financial freedom number just from that
Wow.
one building.
And wait
Yeah.
a minute. So, and are you self-managing that?
Yeah, I'm self-managing that because it's only 3 units and it's like 15 minutes, 12, 15 minutes away from where I live now. And I rarely go over there. I don't
Uh,
really need to. Yeah.
it's also a really good experience. Now, so, okay, awesome. And from there you started looking in other markets, but do you have something else in New York?
No, in Pennsylvania.
It's Pennsylvania. Okay. Tell me about
Hmm.
that one.
So there's two in Pennsylvania, a 6 unit and a 5 unit. And I basically found those like people have these really horrible closing stories. Like it takes so much to get to the closing table and all the ups and downs. And I think I'm kind of I'm at a disadvantage because I don't have a difficult acquisition story. So I didn't get to learn the lessons that a lot of people learn when they go through those trials
Oh yeah.
and push through. So it's good and bad in the long term. I know I didn't learn the lessons that other people have when it comes to acquisitions, but the first one, I saw the listing come up because I'm on the, all the lists for the area for my market. And I saw the listing come up and I'm like, oh, that's going to be a good one to practice underwriting with, right? And then a guy that I have been speaking to a couple of times, and we were potentially going to partner on a deal. We would look and see if there was anything. He called me the next day and said, I don't know if you saw this deal, but my property manager said that this will be a great one to add to my portfolio. Do you want to do it with me? And I'm like, well, yeah, I did see the deal. I thought I was just going to practice underwriting it, but we could put in an offer, sure. So we ended up putting in an offer that weekend and it got accepted over other bids. And then, the closing process did have some bumps and bruises, but because my partner already had like a team set up in that area, like he had the property manager, the banker, some other people, they were able to just snap their fingers and get it done and really negotiate with the seller when she was trying to be a little difficult. And we closed maybe 4 months later. But yeah, it got done. And I feel like I wasn't that hands on with the closing process, mainly just underwriting and seeing where we could take the property because it was a big value add. So that was the main thing that I was focused on. But the other rest of the process kind of got handled by the team. And then the next building we bought, we refinanced the 6 unit after we finished the repositioning process. And the day that we refinanced is the same day we closed on the next building that my partner happened to be in contract with because the property management that we use, they were managing that property and they said, oh, the seller is trying to get rid of it. We can't buy it, or we would buy it, but we have X, Y, and Z going on. So they said, do you want it? So it basically was because of just knowing people and being connected with the right people. So we just got it from our property management company, and my partner said, you want to do this one too? And I said, sure.
That's
So
awesome.
how it happened.
So cool. And you mentioned refi. Did you ever refi that triplex from New York or no?
I did. I refinanced the first time in 2019 when I first joined like Jake and Gino and started buying. And that's where I got my capital. Because otherwise I wouldn't have saved up money to be able to join like larger groups or to even have the down payment to split with a partner on the first commercial deal. So I refinanced out some money, not a ton, maybe I think it was like 50 or 60K. And then I did a LP position in a deal. So I did passive investing. I joined Jake and Gino. I bought some like silver, some other like coins and things like that. And then I saved the rest I opened a whole life insurance policy, the bank on yourself policy, because I knew if I put that money in there, I could be able to pull it back out for when I was ready to purchase a building. I just wanted to put the chunk of money someplace where it would grow and be better than just having it in a savings account. So I kind of spread the money in a bunch of different pockets and had it there just to use when I needed it.
That's incredible, Nicole. So no vacation? You didn't use it to like go to Vegas?
No. Actually, you know what? I use none of that money for any type of vacation. I'm wondering if I bought myself anything.
Good. You look at this. This is this strict investor mindset. This is awesome. This is what it
Yeah,
takes,
yeah, yeah.
So cool. All right. So is it Lawrence? Is that your partner on those in Pennsylvania? Who's your partner?
His name is Christian.
I don't know Christian. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
Gwait from Jake and Gino actually introduced me to him because we were in the same market. And so we just had a couple of calls. We hit it off. Like, even though he had more buildings than I did at the time, and he was transitioning like his portfolio from a different market into the market that we both were looking at. But because I had done my research about the market, I spent my maternity leave going there and actually being boots on the ground, touring properties, meeting with property managers. And so and looking at deals. And so I kind of knew generally the lay of the land. And so in talking to him, he realized that I just wasn't like a tire kicker, like that I knew some people, like I guessed the property manager that he had because it was like the best property manager in the area, because he kind of didn't want to tell me at first. But then I was like, oh, is it so-and-so? He was like, oh, you know about that? Because he just wanted to, keep that, I guess, not spread his property manager too thin with too many other new investors. But yeah, it worked out. So
Gotcha. Nicole, are you still looking in Pennsylvania?
yes. Yes and no. I have expanded my market. So there is a limit. The I want to get larger and start acquiring larger buildings. And I have as part of some syndications, but in my market, it's very hard to come by larger buildings. There's a lot of smaller, like maybe 8 to 15 unit kind of things. And whenever one of those comes on the market, best believe there's like a swarm of investors attacking it because they're very rare. So we're looking there and we're trying to do DTS to get to some of the larger unit count buildings. But I'm also expanding and I'm starting to look at another asset class like in the Midwest. And I want to look in the Southeast at some more multifamily as well.
Cool. And are you working with anybody in particular? Are you going at it solo?
Oh no, teamwork makes the dream work. Like, so yeah. And especially because I have a full-time job. I have two toddlers, 3 and a 5-year-old, and I'm running my real estate business. There is just too much to do. There's not enough time in a day to do all the things. And, because I have my podcast and I have like a book club and I have all these other things that I'm running. And to try to also be acquisitions and boots on the ground for, or even correlating with, in another market that I cannot get up and travel to on a consistent basis. Like I can't just hop on a plane, like I have the kids, I have the job. So yes, I'm definitely working with people in any other market that I'm going to consider. I have to be working with a team that I like and trust there. So yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. And what kind of size? You said you wanted to go a little bit bigger. Is that like syndication style?
I am on both sides of the fence.
Hmm.
So I have started with some syndications. I am looking to do like if I was going to do like a 30 to 50 unit, yeah, then of course I would syndicate something like that. But then also looking to JV smaller, like 15 to 20 unit kind of thing. So just depending on what comes along, what we can do some creative financing with, because the rates these days are making it much harder for anything to pencil out. Before, price was making it harder for things to pencil out. And now it's kind of rates and price because sellers still have not come down in their price expectations. But
Yep.
for now, yeah, I'm going to do a little bit of both. But JV or syndication, I think I'm going to focus mainly on JV to start.
Yep. Okay, cool. So you mentioned something earlier about everybody's journey being different. And it's funny you mentioned that I was driving up this weekend to New Jersey with my daughter, and I was thinking the same thing, that it doesn't mean that you're not going to reach your goals, right? It's just the route or the road that you take is different than other people, and different is fine, right? Everybody's got to go through whatever they have to go through. So whether or not you had a challenging acquisition doesn't mean that you're not going to get to your end goal. And whether or not I had a super challenging acquisition doesn't mean I'm not going to get to my end goal, right? We just all have different lessons along the way and different journeys to take. And I think that's important for people to know and really, really take in, because these days with social media and other people posting all the time about their wins, right? We don't know how they got those wins or how much equity they have in those wins, right? But they're posting them all the time. It kind of makes us feel almost a lack, right? Like we're not good enough or something. And it's important to remember that our journey is our journey and it is super powerful for us.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better because that's something I definitely struggle with myself. And even being in some of these larger groups or these mastermind groups, you're supposed to be in the rooms where you're not the smartest one in the room, right? And that's so that you can grow and you can glean information from the people who are further than you on their journeys. But at the same time, when you see the speed or the type of assets or the acquisitions or whatever else that they're doing, you end up measuring yourself against that, but they're in a different journey. They've been doing it maybe longer. It's just completely different. And it's hard to not feel discouraged at the same time as trying to feel motivated if you're doing the comparison thing. So I always joke that I have comparisonitis, and it's something that I have to continuously, it's a continuous improvement process on working on that as an issue. But yeah, The Gap in the Gain, everyone, if anyone else struggling with comparisonitis, please read The Gap in the Gain. That helped me extremely.
Yes, great book. I love that book. Thank you for sharing. And you also mentioned that you were doing right in the beginning. You were doing like mailers, and that was actually successful, which is surprising. And then you thought about wholesaling. There are so many different routes to take in real estate, and sometimes it just takes time for us to figure out which route is best for us and our personality and what really motivates us, because it's different for everybody.
Yeah, it really is. Because even wholesaling, That's basically like acquisitions, except you don't keep the property. So you have to do all the same things. And when they're trying to sell newbies on getting started with wholesaling, I don't think they really are. And they, I mean, like whoever is giving the presentation, trying to sell a course or whatever, they're not really being realistic with how much work wholesaling really is. It's not a simple process. Well, it might be a simple process, but it's not an easy process. You definitely have to stay extremely dedicated to be very successful. You should actually put some capital behind your marketing efforts as well. And it's not no money, involved. It might be less than purchasing a building, but there's so much to go into that, and the negotiation skills and talking to sellers and all of that. Like, I'm fine talking to a seller now because I have a little bit more experience or whatever. But as far as wholesaling, that process of getting deal flow, being consistent, that definitely was outside of my wheelhouse and not something that, even before I had kids and everything, it was just something that wasn't my strong suit. That wasn't something that I could do.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
but
just need to know that.
and some people love it and they really like that thrill, and it's very transactional, and that's for certain people, and people do really well with it. But I also know people that are spending thousands of dollars a month on marketing and building up all these CRMs and processes and systems. And that's just what they really love to do. And they're never really going to go into the multifamily game because it just doesn't fit their personality. So I guess
Mm-hmm.
everybody's different and it's all good.
Oh yeah. Is that whatever floats your boat, wherever you're successful or fits, the framework of what you want to do, then take that. But just have a holistic, well-rounded approach to your wealth building journey. If that's what you like to do, but that that's super transactional, maybe you're getting taxed crazy with, after every time you sell a property, or even with wholesaling, you will get taxed because that's regular income, or capital gains. Actually, I don't. Do you get capital gains for wholesaling? Probably not, because you never own the property.
I don't know what it
That's a
is.
good question.
It's a great question. Maybe it's taxed as ordinary income. I don't know.
Yeah, in any case, it's still at a high tax bracket. It's still,
Hmm.
at least regular income. And so think about, if you want to have generational wealth, how you're going to establish that. Talk to the right CPAs and attorneys and get entities that you need so that you can be tax efficient, and have your income. Because the more money you keep, a penny saved is a penny earned, right? So the more you keep is the faster you can grow your wealth and have it compounding, except for instead of having taxes and other expenses coming out of that don't really need to come out.
Love it. Hey, Nicole, are you helping people? Are you doing any coaching or mentoring?
Actually, I am. I'm mentoring on microfamily investing. That's what I call it. So that's that smaller 10 to 20 unit range. And why I decided to focus on that is because a lot of people who want to get into commercial real estate, they just see all the big closings, right? They see 50 units, 100 plus units. They hear go big or go home, all of those. And I don't think that that is particularly true. Like, as I said, I'm getting my financial freedom number from a 3 unit, and there's so much more. If you're joint venturing, you can control more of what's going on with the project. You can partner with someone, or you could take that down yourself. And I just think it's easier for people to think big, but in the middle, like not jump to the 100 unit, maybe 10 units is big for them if they started with single family or they have nothing. And that's easier for them to kind of digest mentally and be comfortable with attacking. And there's still a lot of profit margin that can be made in that asset class. Once you get into syndication and larger deals, like you were saying, you don't know how much equity somebody owns of a particular like large deal. You could have 1% of a 100 unit and get like $20 a month or less a quarter, in
Hmm.
cash flow. So that is really not going to move the needle as fast as people think it's going to.
Yeah, totally. So is there like an official program that you have, or are you just kind of testing the waters right now?
It's an official program, but what I'm doing is I want the first cohort to kind of start together. So I'm having calls with people who are interested. And then from there, we'll just hit the ground running. And I'll be like hands on. It's not one on one, it's group coaching, but at the same time, I'm individually looking at everybody's scenario, their situation, what they're coming from, what resources they already have, what their goals are, and structuring their path individual to them.
I love it. Sounds awesome. Okay, well, let's get people some form of, reaching you to get into that. And then we're going to hit our final question.
Okay. So you can reach me on probably LinkedIn is the best, LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, but LinkedIn or Facebook, Nicole Pendergrass. And I can give you links to my social media as well. You can also visit my website, noirvestholdings.com. It's NOIRVEST holdings.com. And I have a contact form there that you can message me. And I'm very responsive on any of the platforms.
Awesome. Thank you, Miss Nikki. We're going to rock this. Let's imagine it was 100 years from now. You have great great grandchildren. They're super happy and they want to write a book about you. What would you want them to title this book?
I still was thinking about it, but I think the most appropriate name would be something to do with grit, with having grit, maybe grit and grace,
Grit and
because
Grace. That's cool.
yeah, I did a talk about that a little while ago, and it's just really in alignment with my story and my journey. And I think I got my grit from my mom and just watching her work, three jobs as I'm growing up and getting older. My dad was on disability, so he wasn't able to, physically work. And I have four brothers. So imagine being the one working parent for a seven-person household. That was very difficult. And as I get older, I see more and more, and I'm just in awe of what she did. And I know that I get my persistence and push through resilience. I get it from watching her as I was growing up. And so I think grit is the perfect word. And grace is just because we're all human and we need to give ourselves a break. And that comparisonitis thing, like be happy with your journey and what you've done so far and don't compare to other people. Give yourself the grace to sometimes you drop the ball. It's okay. Just pick it up when you can, gather yourself and keep pushing. And as long as you don't stop, you'll never fail.
Oh, that's cool, Nicole. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love it. I just had Tony Castronovo on as well, and he was talking about Grit to Growth. That's his company or his new coaching program. Now we have Grit to Grace. And it's funny because I was also talking to Joe Sullivan and he mentioned grit. And prior to that, so this is the fourth time now because I was also
Oh,
listening
I thought it was original.
Well, no. I don't know if anybody else. So I think Tony was the only one who mentioned Grit to Growth on for his title. But
Yeah.
Joe Sullivan was talking about grit, and so was what's his name? Jesus, but
You'll remember as soon as we hang up. Yeah, you'll remember as soon as we hang up.
Yes, the writer, the guy who goes Go Big or Go Home. He wrote all those books. Anyway,
Grant Cardone.
Mr. Grant Cardone, GC, Uncle G. Yeah.
Okay.
So he was that day that I spoke with Tony, and he was talking about Grit to Growth. I was listening to one of his books again for like the third or fourth time, and he was mentioning grit, and I was like, "This is awesome!" And I was really like resonating with it. And then Tony, and then Joe, and now you. This is it. This is what we need to stay in this game. We need to have that grit.
Have you read the book Grit by Angela Duckworth? Okay.
Yes.
Great that one's book. Great. Yeah.
Great book. Cool. Well, Nicole, it's been a wonderful time talking with you today. I'm really excited that we got to share your story and your journey. And I know that people are going to want to reach out to you. And I'm just excited for what you have in store for us and our community in the next few years. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And everyone, I hope you're well connected with Mr. Nico here because he's a great person. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Hey, Small Axe community. I would like to say thank you for listening to another episode of this podcast where we show you how to use your small axe to build a lasting empire. Now, if you like what you heard, it would mean the world to me if you could leave me a 5-star rating and write a written review. Hey, let's take it one step further and share this podcast with someone that you feel could benefit from it. And until the next episode, keep sharpening those axes.